Okay, welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Scholar Gypsies. I'm delighted to have Fianna Fáil County Councillor Noel Thomas with me this evening. We're going to be talking about his, the recent search of his house, and his phone was taken possession of by the Garda Siochana. It was loosely in relation to a fire, I think, in Roscahill Hotel in Roscahill, and again on the whole mass immigration policies of our government. But welcome, Noel. I suppose, if you'd said to me, we spoke 6 months ago, if you said to me 6 months ago that one of the two of us would be have a knock on the door from the Garda Siochana, you're not the man I'd have picked. So I suppose maybe give people a brief background on, the Roscahill Hotel and the fire, but more specifically as to why the Garda Siochana showed up on your door.
Well, Logan, we'll recap quickly back about the fire, Jerry, just for your listeners. Anyone doesn't know about it, but as to why the Garda came to my door is as much a mystery to me as anybody else. But anyway, look at back on I think it was around about the 16th or something of December, we ended up getting word from Galway County Council. An email was sent out from the department, I should say, actually. An email was sent out to us, and we were told that a bunch of, I think it was 70 young males were going to be brought back to the Roscahill Hotel. Roscahill Hotel is a hotel that is in a very remote area, Jerry. So it's between, I suppose the best example I can give to anyone is be between Mycullen village and Uachtarard village. And then you've got to turn in a little side road halfway between the two, and you turn in a little side road and go a few kilometres in there, and then you drive up another private laneway, maybe 500-600 meters again up until eventually you get into this hotel, which is the middle of nowhere, we could say. So anyway, look, a lot of residents were very concerned at the time in relation to what was going on. So the calls started coming to me straight away that day, and then before we knew what was happening, there was people getting ready to organise a bit of a protest back at the entrance to the laneway going into the hotel. So anyway, I went back myself, along with my colleague, Councillor Seamus Walsh as well. And we were there to support the people, because to be very honest with you, that's what, as a local representative, I think that's what I should be doing in this situation. So I was quite happy to be there. And as a message, I would be there again tomorrow morning if the same thing happened. But anyway, apart from that, Terry, that's, I suppose, what led to what happened then on the morning of the 6th. So as you said, okay, no, I should actually go a little bit further on this. So after the fire, I think maybe probably a week after that or so, I was called up to, I was asked to go to the Uachtarard Garda station, where two detectives or detective sergeants wanted to interview me in relation to what happened, or the goings on were of the couple of days. There was a Friday and a Saturday that the protest was held. So I agreed, because to be honest with you, Jerry, I have always and ever had a very good relationship with the Gardaí locally here. Always and ever have assisted them in anything I could help them with. And in return from that, I have, the Gardaí have often come to me with issues as well, and I'd help them. And that was the relationship we always had here. It was always, it's a close-knit community around here, which is great to have. But anyway, I'd done an interview with them for around about, I think it was close on 2.5 hours, maybe something like that. So these interviews are kind of very strange, to be honest with you. And I actually said it to the two detectives afterwards. I said to them, Joe, I don't, sorry, what did I say to them? I said, I don't, how would you describe it at all? I kind of, saying that they had a lot of rubbish to go through afterwards, because it's questions like, what time were you there at the gate, and who was beside you, and just these sort of questions. You go through that over a period of 2 hours, and it's very difficult to do something like that as well, because yourself, in particular in my case anyway, because there'll be different people there all the time. I'm moving from one group to another and talking to different people all the time, so you could never actually guarantee your information will be 100% accurate, like, in a case like that, like in time-wise and exactly who you spoke to when or anything like that. But anyway, that's the information they wanted, and that's what we went through for the 2.5 hours. But I suppose then it was after that, then on, what was it? Oh, trying to think. Just before Christmas, I was actually going in. The two detectives wanted the video footage I have on my phones. So at the interview, actually, I had given them the video footage. I had transferred it from my phone by WhatsApp over to one of their phones. So then they asked me after that, then again, if I wouldn't mind calling into the station in Renmore, where they would have one of their IT guys or whoever it was they used for this, because they said that they wanted to download the video directly from my phone. So I said, fine, no issue. So I went in. I was in Galway City actually the one evening at a funeral, and I said to them, I said, I'll call over after that. So they agreed with that. So when I finished the funeral, went to meet with them and rang them, and they said they'd ring me back in a few minutes. I didn't know what they were doing. So then they rang me back eventually, and they said they couldn't meet me till after the Christmas because they were caught up with something else. So that was fine. So anyway, look, at time went on, and we went on till after the Christmas, and then all of a sudden on the morning of the 6th, they knock. Oh, I shouldn't say the knock, because there was doorbells ringing at my house, 6 o'clock in the morning, like doorbells ringing, doors banging, windows banging, lights flashing in, and people shouting. And that's what we were woken to at 6 o'clock in the morning at my house. So obviously got up, and I was met at the door with a detective sergeant who was down from Dublin, and I think he was with the National Bureau of Crime Investigation. So anyway, basically just asked him what was the story. So he says that he had a warrant to search my home. So I said, well, could you show me the warrant, please? So he showed me the warrant, and of course the warrant was legit, signed off by a judge and all the rest. So there's nothing more I could do but let them proceed with their searching. So myself and actually all of my family were actually in the house on that particular morning, which is kind of unusual because, you know, there's a couple of them living in Limerick now on this stage and everything. But we actually had my daughter's boyfriend there as well. So anyway, so 7 was in total in the house. So we were all put sitting in the sitting room, and a band guard they put at the door to basically to guard us so we couldn't leave while they carried out the search in the house. So it's a funny feeling to be treated like a criminal in your own home, like. But anyway, you know.
Let me just pop in there, because you've 3 or 4 things that already you've said that are kind of weird. Had you the sense at the original time the Uachtaráid, you know, when you were brought in by the Uachtaráid Gardaí, was had you any sense that it was being driven out? You know, this obviously ended up at the National Bureau of Crime, and they sent someone down from that unit down from Dublin. Had you the sense originally when you went into Uachtaráid that this was an investigation being driven by the local Gardaí, you know, in just terms of solving a crime, as in, we'll say, an arson?
Yeah, that is the way it was, Jerry, on the day I done the interview with them, yes. And there was 2 said detectives, one detective sergeant, and I know the other guy was a detective or a sergeant or what he was. But anyway, but the 2 of them would have been local enough, like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think from what I'm hearing ever since that is now that, you know, basically the boys have come down from Dublin now, and they're just taking over the whole lot and don't really kind of care about anyone else. So
yeah. And tell me, what sense had you of what they were looking for? Or, you know, what were they searching for? Was it computer devices, or was it, you know, everything?
Well, no, the first thing that was asked of me, the moment they came in the door, they asked a phone is what they wanted. So they actually gathered all the phones in the house. So from all my children, and I said my daughter's boyfriend, and then they first, well, I suppose I was the first one they came and they asked me, said, have you got your phone there? And I said, I have. It was charging at the side of the bed. So I went back and showed it to him, and he took it. And there was another old phone there as well. And then they took all the phones out to the kitchen, and then from there they carried on with the search of the house itself. So when I say what was I going to say to you at all? Yeah, when they completed their search, then eventually they called us back out to the kitchen. They gave the phones back to, I think that was Lana. I think you were talking about maybe an hour and a half of a search here, I'd say, Jerry, about that. But they handed the phones back to everybody in the house, but then they took the 2 phones that I had, and then they also found another old iPhone 5, I think, or something like that, somewhere in the house. I don't know, honestly, I don't know where they found it, to be honest with you. But anyway, they brought that with them as well. So
okay. Now
that's the only thing they seem to be interested in, Mike. So
now, I suppose, were you happy enough to get? Now, this raises a few questions, because we can tie this in with the proposed hate speech legislation that's on track. And if that was in place, you'd be safe. And I don't know whether you might tell us, or it's up to yourself whether you tell us or not, whether you give them the passcode to your phones or not. But one of the penalties for in the hate speech legislation is that if the authorities enter your premises, into your home, and like anyone that's on your premises is also covered by the warrant. But if you refuse to give them your passcode, that you face fines, but also a jail term up to 12 months in prison for refusal. And I'm just curious to know that angle of it for yourself. Were you happy enough to let them see what, basically view the content of your phone?
To be often honest with you, like, as a public representative, no is the answer to that. Like, I'm not a bit happy and giving them my phone or anything else, to be quite honest with you. Because, like, people come to me with different issues or whatever, like, right, yourself, your phone is connected to your emails, is connected to everything else, like. So people come to me with different issues, like, and I treat that as sacrament, like, I mean? I would never disclose to anybody anything I'm doing with anybody else. So, like, that's from that side of thing, no, I was very uncomfortable to do it. But anyway, you don't have a choice. I mean, when someone arrives with a legal warrant to your house for you, you don't have a choice. You got to just hand over your stuff. So, not that I said no, but I will say, Derek, we'll just go back just for interest's sake. Now, is that I'm not sure, were either 5 or 6 guards that came to my house that day. I will say, and I have to say it, like, I honestly don't think any of those guards want to be in my house. If I'm being awful honest about it, I'm pretty good at reading people's faces, like, and getting to read on people that way. And I honestly don't think any of them really wanted to be there. And in fairness to them, they were very polite about what they were doing and everything else, as much as they could be, like. So it's obviously they're getting orders from somewhere higher up the chain, like. That's what's happening here, like. I think we have a situation here at the moment in relation to this investigation, like, where we have the commissioner and our government leaders as well, who are desperate to try and hang this on somebody, just to cover their own backsides, like. That's what's going on here, like. I mean,
let's just call it spade a spade. No, from looking at this from the outside, and I've been following it quite closely, because we had a chat 6 months ago, where you helped out a group of residents in Rahoon to stop 32 male migrants going into a 6-bedroom house. So you're firm in trying to bring this to people's attention. But, like, the fact of the matter is, it would seem to me that that search warrant and that kind of raid on your house could not have happened. That would have gone right up to the Garda Commissioner's office. It would have, like, that's a serious that's a serious overreach step, especially when there's no evidence whatsoever to back up that search warrant, as far as I can see, other than your vocal kind of criticism of government policy. And so exactly I would put it to you that, like, Micheál Martin, or at least the leadership of the Fianna Fáil party, your own party, must have been informed at a very early stage before this was carried out. Would that be your feeling on it, or would you have questions there?
As I tell you, look, I've said this before a couple of times, right? Like the guys coming down here involved in this case, like I said, like, these guys, I said, the National Bureau of Crime Investigation, like, these are our elite investigators into serious crime in this country. So, like, nobody can tell me that these guys can't tell in 2 minutes that I had nothing to do with lighting the fire back in Roscahill Hotel. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are not stupid, but they're being forced to go through with this investigation the way they are, because the pressure is on, and obviously the pressure is coming from government. I'd say more so than anywhere, because, like, the government obviously are upset with what we're doing, the stance we're taking, because it has really raised people's attention into what's going on here, and then they're not happy about it. So I think myself they'll stoop to any level to try and silence the likes of myself or the likes of my colleague Seamus Welch as well. That's what it appears to be doing.
It would seem to me that they were trying. If we take it to the present day, and like even from the middle of last month, it's a fast-moving situation around the country, and protests are escalating. Unhappiness around the country, especially the rural countryside, is escalating. It seems to me the government, and again your own party, were trying to send a message to local politicians. Like they were almost using you as an example, and to a lesser degree, Councillor Walsh, because as I understand it, he was questioned, but there was no search warrant issued on his home.
Yeah, it was very obvious.
So would you say? Yeah, so you'd see it that way.
Well, I can't see it any other way.
Yeah.
I put it this way, I can sit here in front of you and talk to you today, and I know I have absolutely nothing to be guilty of. I could swear on the lives of all my family here, and I can do that no problem because I know there's nothing to be got on me. So when you're in that situation, like that's actually something. We just go back on that, like just say because there's one aspect of the search done in my house that. That some of the mainstream media wouldn't cover, say, right? Because I don't know, they think it's sensitive or whatever. Like, but it's and again, I'll just say to you, it's not me. I'm not calling the Gardaí criminals in this case, like, right? But what I'm going to say to you is that the Gardaí that came to my home, the 5 or 6 of them who came to my home, like they were coming to the house again of an innocent man, right? And like they were all strangers to me and my family. So in actual fact, and they may have a legal warrant or whatever to do the search, but that doesn't matter because in actual fact. There was no difference in what they'd done than if criminals came in and burgled my house and turned the place upside down. There was no difference. Like, that's the way I look at it. As I said to you, like, I'm not blaming the guards that came and done it because they were going on their own orders. And as I said, I don't think they wanted it there anyway. But that is what it was like for my family. If we're having people coming in, rummaging through your personal stuff who we don't know at all. They're strangers, as I said to us. So, a despicable act is all I can say.
Well, it sends like the message it sends is if you're an ordinary person, looking at what happened to you, especially in Galway, it's like, well, if they'll do that to a county councillor of their own party,
exactly.
What are they? What will they do to the likes of me or anyone else if we try?
I don't know, Jerry. In the history of the state, has there ever been a search warrant issued against a elected representative before? Like we don't have to go back too far at all, right? To remember when Leo himself was involved with the whole leak. Now that was a very, very serious issue. But yet there was no one coming in raiding his house and taking his phone.
Well, no. Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
Well, look, we know it's one rule for it's rules are for good times and good people, if you like. Rules apply to good times and good people, probably, What was I going to say there? I suppose just on a local basis, because it's time you have to start calling out these. You're a Fianna Fáil County Councillor. Seamus Walsh is Fianna Fáil County Councillor. There's 20 Fianna Fáil County Councillors in County Galway, 2 senators, 2 TDs. Had they reached out to support? Are they going to do anything? I have not. I've been watching the social media profiles of a number of them. And I haven't seen too much support out there as to say, outrage over what's happened to their colleague Noel Thomas.
You won't see that either, Jerry. And I'm seeing this like for a long, long time. And I think we actually discussed this before ourselves. Like I know it myself from talking to my colleagues, right? That like every one of them are in agreement with what we're saying, but they're all terrified to actually come out and say it because as soon as you stick your head above the parapet. They said you're being labelled, you're a racist, you're a flipping NIMBYist, you're everything else and you do get it. You get it good and hard, but if you're thick-skinned like myself, it's not too bad. But I'm not going to mention names here, but I could tell you about a story about another councillor who put his head above the parapet not so long ago. And to be honest with you, I spoke to them there only going back a few days ago, and they're a broken person. So it's hard to do it. It's not easy to do it.
Well, I this is a time, as you know, as much as you might have sympathy maybe for that, like, get out of politics is my attitude to a person like that.
Yeah.
Because this, you know, this isn't the time for snowflakes, like, you know, unfortunately, because things have expanded so far and over so many years, you might say, and you can certainly get a sense around the countries. A lot of people are waking up to what's going on and they're not quite sure. So, like, you know,
Cavan County Council, actually, which was interesting. Cavan County Council at their last plenary meeting, they just came up at their meeting, so did, and I think the whole council in Cavan actually condemned what was happening here to me.
Well, isn't that like, has the Galway County Council done that?
No, we haven't had a meeting since. Anyway, we haven't had a plenary meeting since, so
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen there, to be honest with you. You know, but we had a meeting ourselves, Fianna Fáil councillors. So there was 15 of us in it. So we had 13 of us present at the meeting, and I can say all of them bar one were 100% behind us.
Mm-hmm. Do you think? Look, you know, do you think? You know, I asked you this question before the last time you were on, and things have gotten significantly worse since we've spoken that time. You know, your Fianna Fáil, whether they know it or they don't know it, are going to get eviscerated in the next election. And you're like, what have you looked at other options as to what you might do going forward? As a, like, I take it you want to stay in, you know, you want to run in the next election, obviously, I assume. But
yes,
like, what, you know, the way I look at this as an outsider, like, I can't. Despite the fact I know that you're doing your best that you can do, I couldn't, in all good conscience, say vote for a Fianna Fáil councillor, because your own party are not just destroying us; they're actually attacking you. Mm-hmm. So, like, what option are you looking at? Different options going forward?
I'm not at the moment, right? But you got to understand. I think we discussed it before. Like, I mean, like, I'm coming from, I said, a very young person at the time when I joined with Fianna Fáil, like, and I've been involved with them always and ever. And like you see, it kills me to see what has happened to them. I know, and I've no shame in saying it. Like, I know that what is running Fianna Fáil at the moment are nothing short of an absolute disgrace. Micheál Martin. I've said it publicly already. I wouldn't. There's no way I would consider Micheál Martin as being my leader. I never have acknowledged him as my leader. But, like, I don't know. You see, okay, Jerry. The long and short of it is, right, I'm going to find it very hard to stay with Fianna Fáil while we have the current leaders there. If we don't see some sign soon of them, you know, going or being pushed out, then it'll be very difficult for me to stay there. But that's ideally what I would love to see happen. I would love to see them, the imposters, as they call them, thrown out of the party, and you know, and we'd have a major struggle now, Jerry. Right? We'd have a major struggle to try and get the party back again after what they've done to it. But I'd still like to have a try at it.
Well, I think, you know, you raise a number of things there. Is that, and here's a question that a journalist kind of said to me the other day was, what's going on in the upper echelons of the Fianna Fáil party between the leadership and, we'll say, whatever PR or functions and kind of almost the social media PR of the Fianna Fáil leadership? Because, like, there seems to be a huge disconnect between that and, you know, a number of councillors that are in the Fianna Fáil party that are like yourselves, you know, mm-hmm. that would seem to be a million miles away from some of the gunk they're pumping out as Fianna Fáil policy. Can you shed a little light there in that terms of what communication or what you think is going on there?
Well, there's no way possible that you could even begin to imagine what's going on there, because it's I don't know, Jerry. It's like as if these guys have come from a different planet or something that are running it now, because they have nothing in common with us down here on the ground, nothing, and they don't seem to be listening to anybody. So I get it regular what we get, Jerry, right? Over the last number of years, what we get there is regularly, okay, we come as councillors and we go to our local common meetings and we're talking directly then with the people on the ground here. And the people that are giving out to us, they're telling us, that they're not happy with what the ministers are doing. And they're kind of saying, that they can't have any contact with them whatsoever. And then we have to go and tell them the same thing as councillors. We have no contact with them either. They're not listening to us. Haven't for the last, I would say, for at least a period of 5 years, 6 years maybe, they seem to have just switched off completely.
Well, it seems to me that and see what you think on this. It seems to me that the leadership of the Fianna Fáil are the think tanks that are driving policy within the party. They're actually setting sail for searching for a new electorate, not the traditional electorate that would have voted Fianna Fáil. And to give you an example, it's like, and I find Gael have a county council election candidate up from, I don't know what country he's from, but his advertisement is, if you're over 18 and have a PPS number, you can vote in the local elections. So what we can say in that is, that policy has always been there, by the way. It's something new. But we've never had a situation where the population landscape of the country has transformed so much in the last 2 or 3 years. So, like, every one of those will say, I forget the number you said that was going into Roscahill, 70 or 70, yeah. Or whatever. Within 6 months, like, they'll have a PPS number and can vote. So we're talking, there's a 200,000 person electorate that's been imported into the country in the last 2 years.
Yes.
And it seems to me that Fianna Fáil are more interested in their vote than they're interested in my vote.
Yeah, well, look, as far as I'm concerned, that is going to be a big mistake that they're making. No, I honestly think that, even looking at the polls that we see, like, at the moment coming out, like, I don't even think they're proper reflection of what people are feeling out there at the moment. I think that it's going to be absolute decimation for Fianna Fáil and for Fine Gael, to be very honest with you. Like, I'll just tell you one thing there, just an example of that. Like, right, when I was just after the I said we started the are you gone there, Jerry?
No, I'm here. Go on.
All right, can you? Yeah, because my phone is ringing here and taking over the screen. But anyway, okay. But when just when we started the protest that time, I remember looking back on the figures of the hate speech law they were bringing in at the time, and I remember we went out to public consultation. So when it went out for public consultation that time, I think it was something like 75% of the observations made were actually against the legislation. So I was kind of feeling myself like that, that must be a similar figure of compared the upset of people who, in relation to the immigration policies we have in this country. All right. So anyway, when all this happened, and that's after the fire and the whole lot, and after the search of my home and you name it, okay, I have got hundreds and hundreds of phone calls, emails, WhatsApps, text messages, you name it, coming to me. And I can tell you one thing, it's not anywhere as close to 75% that are against what's happening here in this country in relation to migration. I'd say it's 97%. A more accurate figure.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm not joking.
I've said it on multiple issues. The LGBTQ stuff being pushed into the schools, the mass immigration stuff, and a number of other things. A lot of the climate stuff. Like, this isn't a COVID situation where you had, maybe 90% of the people going one way and 10% going the other way. This is 90% of the people are going one way, and there's a cohort of 10% in mostly media and, politically going another way.
Of our political system, and it's all these NGOs that, as far as I'm concerned, must have been brought in there for purposes like now, I think, to be honest with you, because they seem to be they're the loudest voices you can get, but yet they're like a tiny minority of the people, absolutely tiny minority. It's kind of I've been tackled myself, Jerry, on several occasions by some of these NGOs. So even in relation to this Ross Lake thing, right? So I had some crowd called, I think it was Card or something like that, and they got on and they actually had a statement made up where they wanted the councillors or the local politicians to come in behind them and to condemn the burning of the building and blah, blah, blah. And how did they describe it? How the certain councillors went to the barricade, to the people at the barricade, and incited fear into them, and put up comments on social media about racist comments and stuff like this. And like, it's okay for these NGOs to come out and make these statements, right? But like, we can't open our mouth at all, but yet they can, right? And when I've actually questioned them, I've gone back and I've sent emails back to these people and asked them to clearly show me where we instilled fear in the people when we got there. To name the councillors as well who were there. Now, not a hard job to do. We know ourselves who was there. Name the councillors who were there. Show where they instilled fear into the crowd that were there. Show clearly where we had put up racist remarks on social media and all. You don't even get an answer from them. But this is the behaviour. That's the way they're allowed to behave. They can say what they like. Call people and everything else.
And I'd also question how they have such easy access to, county councillors and county councils with these statements and with this, stuff. Because I know, even in going back a week, and I was covering what was going on in Ballinrobe, and like RTE were platforming some anti-racist Facebook group who were delighted to see, these non-EU asylum seekers going into Ballinrobe. Like a fantasy group, more or less, maybe there's 4 or 5 people behind it, but there's no people on the ground. Yet our state broadcaster is platforming them like it's, all of South Mayo. That's
exactly,
stuff. And you and I both know that isn't the case.
Well, it's not at all, no. And then look at, you see it there, even look at an actual good example when you look at it. There's 34,000 NGOs I think we have in this country now or something crazy like that. And,
but even if I take it back to our first interview, because we did that interview and you rang me a day after, and somebody who was, I won't name who it was, but somebody who's basically presents themselves as an anti-racist and and all this stuff was kind of in your ear about doing an interview with me, like about this, having a conversation with the likes of me. And like, we're two people who, whatever our politics might line up too much, we're two Galway people who've lived here all our lives, like.
And I'm sure there are things that we could talk about, Jerry, that we wouldn't agree with either, like. But but saying that, like, you're supposed to be, like, and I don't know you at all, as you know yourself. I mean, the first time we met was only, 6 months ago, whatever. When I chat with you, you asked me to do an interview, I said I'd do it. I don't know you at all, but as I said, you were labelled as this far-right monster, right? But I mean, all I can say to you, you're an absolute gentleman to draw to our interview. Whereas this other person that you're talking about there earlier on, I mean, they were absolutely nasty and rude. That's what they were. That's the only way you could describe them. And they're supposed to be the good guys, like in this, is it? Doesn't.
Well, you see, it's a smaller version of what's going on a bigger scale. Is that if that person gets, somebody like the politician will say that who's been broken by putting his head above the parapet, if you like, gets those calls. That the idea is to stop anything coming out of the ground, so that you'd never consider doing another interview, never mind with me, but with somebody else they don't like. And I think that's going on a grand scale, and I think it's being supported hand in glove with the government parties and Sinn Féin too, probably.
Well, look, at my policy is, as far as I'm concerned, everybody should be entitled to have their voice heard. I don't care what anybody thinks about them. Obviously, you're not going to let somebody come on and voice their opinion by going around, making blatant racist remarks and trying to run everyone out of the country or whatever. That's just ridiculous stuff. But I mean, everybody is entitled to have their view, and they're entitled to be heard. But that's something that we are really losing in this country, really losing. And you don't hear it. I mean, look at all the debates now you see going on anymore, and you will see one side is all you're going to see, and every now and again, then you'll see on a mainstream, say, media platform or whatever. We've seen one there not so long ago where what show was on, John McGurk. I don't know if you saw it or not there a few days ago, but he was on it on the Tonight Show or something. But there was an absolute disgrace. Like, the man wasn't allowed to talk because he had a Fine Gael minister there shouting over him, and the presenter of the show would never step in to give him a chance to actually speak. But while the Fine Gael minister was talking, or anybody else there was talking, then John McGurk had the manners to let them speak. Like, but like, it was a complete and utter ambush. And I think that was actually, I think that night had one of those NGO guys were on as well. I think he was online on it from one the anti-racist crowd in Mayo or something like that, And again, he was allowed to spout off any kind of thing he wanted about John McGurk. Like, but fair play to John McGurk. He's a very strong character as well, and he actually handled himself pretty well on it under all the pressure he was under.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things is people are questioning. This is a smaller and smaller bubble that they're operating in. The Fine Gael ministers, the RTE, and the social media. I think this government is being run from kind of social media reaction and this kind of stuff, and I think they're quite mentally captured by, like, there's such a huge disconnect between those type of people and what's actually going on the grounds when you go to these towns and villages across Ireland. I've been to quite a few of them over the last 4 or 5 months. But I suppose that that's a dam that's going to break, I think, and nobody's going to be more shocked than some of these people when it happens. But I suppose one thing I wanted to ask you, actually, and bring you back to the search warrant. Have you looked into the legality of that search warrant? Like, what
I've done there recently was, just a couple of days ago, I actually sent an email to the lead investigator that came to my house that day, and I asked him for an actual copy of the search warrant, and I also asked him for a copy of the oath that the detective would have made to the judge in order for the judge to actually write it. And because, like, as far as I'm concerned, I would love to see what that detective had wrote on these assigned oaths, like, because I said I cannot see how he could have wrote enough on that to get a judge to actually give a search warrant for my house. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense to me at all.
Well, we're only surmising, but did that search warrant come from, we'll say, the west of Ireland, or from
the west of Ireland? Yeah, signed off by Galway judge.
Right. Okay. So signed off by a Galway judge. So, do you suspect that media appearances, social media commentary, and stuff like that is being factored in to awarding of these search warrants? Again,
I don't know, to be honest with you. Like, I find it hard to believe, Jerry. I find it actually hard to believe that number one, that a detective would have been able to write whatever he had to write to get the judge to agree to give a search warrant for an elected representative. But
what else would there be? Like?
I think they're coming from further up, Jerry, to be honest with you. I think they're coming from further up. And it's worrying.
But from your point of view, that would you, let me phrase this a different way. Would you view it that search warrant, there could be possibly no legal basis as to give that search warrant based on any evidence? Like, you have to produce some sort of evidence to get, and I would have said it.
But you'd imagine you'd have to produce very substantial evidence,
especially for elected representatives.
That's the point I'm making. Like, so, and if there's such substantial evidence like that, I can't see where it came from. You know what I mean? Nothing is making sense to me here on this.
So where is it at now in that in
well, I got a response from the detective sergeant there again just today. So he's saying because it's a live case that she cannot give it to me, the information. So I think he's saying that when this is resolved, I can get a copy of the search warrant. But like, I know I've read the search warrant already myself, but I'd still like to have a copy of it. But I'd say the way they're talking, I don't think they're ever going to disclose the oath that the detective made to the judge. Now, we have to wait and see.
Are you I don't know the answer to this, but are you entitled to get that information?
I don't.
Is anyone in?
I'd have to seek legal advice on that again. You know, it's the only way I could actually really get to the bottom of it, like, because as I'm not a legal expert myself, but I would. Well, what you would hope is that you would be entitled to get that information. You know, you think it should be basic enough.
Well, like, if it was me, I'd want to I'd want to go after them over something like this, because they're only going to be emboldened to do it again. It seems completely bonkers to me, anyway.
Excuses there at the moment. You see, it's a live case. You know yourself. That's the excuse. Always
a live case, but Roscahill is a live case. Yes. Your connection to it has not been established, other than the fact that you went down to a protest there. Like, if attending a protest is grounds for giving a search warrant, we're living in.
Well, that's the point I'm making. Like, you know, how the hell did they manage to get the search warrant for me? That's a question that I'd really like to see answered.
Yeah, well, hopefully it is. Noel, I'm conscious of your time now, but there is one other thing, and anything you want to get in, you can. I want to ask you, like, we've seen in today, Roscahill, you know, there's massive protests. There's even kind of some scuffles with guards and protesters. We've seen Carlow, we've seen Kilkenny, we're seeing it in Ballinrobe, we're seeing it everywhere, in the country, in the rural countryside. What would you say to people and politicians, local representatives, in terms of voicing their, you know, opposition to what's going on in the country? I think we all know what's going on, like, to a certain degree, but, you know, this imposition of kind of pop-up direct provision centres in every town and village in the country as normal, with no discussion. What would you say to them, you know, ordinary people who might be a little afraid, you know, to kind of join a protest or, you know, do something? After your own experience,
what can you say to them other than, you know, I'd only hope that they can, you know, find the courage somewhere to continue on with this, because there's nothing else that this government is going to understand other than being annihilated. That's the only thing they're going to understand. Because, like, we've tried, you cannot talk. Just very quickly, right? I'm just going to read a statement that Leo Varadkar came out with the other day, and this just shows you how bloody far removed and delusional they are. I can give out the statement. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar said he has no particular figure in mind for what would be a sustainable number of asylum seekers the state could accept, but said the country will be very proud in 10 years' time of how many new arrivals Ireland has welcomed. Now, could someone please tell me, how proud is Sweden today? At 10 years on from when they opened their borders in 2015, you could say nearly 10 years. They're not proud. They are very, very upset with what had happened to their country. And now they're trying to fix it when it's possibly too late. So, like, for these delusional leaders we have to come out with statements like that, I mean, sure, there is no cure but to get rid of them, like. Any other difference?
I'm laughing, but it's kind of an ironic laugh, is that we live in a country where a councillor in a government party is kind of more or less saying we have to annihilate our government. Do you know what I mean? But following on from that, just to
the only thing they're going to understand, like, if they don't get elected next time. That's the only thing they're going to understand, because they cannot see people's upset other than that, you know?
Yeah, no, like, absolutely. Well, anyone that's followed me for long enough knows I'm pro and getting rid of this government. What you raised a good point there, Noel. I just want to pick up on it. Is that, you know, what Varadkar said there? The way I see this is, we're the people of this country are almost serve the appetites of a kind of the multinational and, you know, bloated public sector service in terms of whatever the appetites of those require, we have to serve them so that if it needs, you know, like I think we'd both agree that what's going on here is really 70-80% economic migrants trying to claim asylum in this country,
yeah.
a lot of them, and that the government are kind of looking the other way because they go into the economy, whether it's through a multinational, whatever it might be, but that we're in no sense a nation anymore, that it's actually these businesses, this government serves the people of this country, like the Irish people of this country. And just to mark that an additional point in that, gov.ie came out with statistics yesterday, and is that we've, you know, 18,000 new Irish citizenships were given out in 2023, and that number is rising and rising, you know, and that's the very end, we'll say, of the work visa system, is when you come in, stay here a number of years, you're entitled to citizenship. And all I would say is that the face of Ireland is changing, and we'll never be able to get it back if we don't take a stand now. Would you say it that way?
100%, yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. Like, you know, everybody talks about, well, let's just say in my particular instance here, you get people now who are labeling me as being anti-migrants and all the rest, right? But like, it couldn't be further from the truth, because like, we'll all agree, and I think you'd agree yourself, Jared, that there was nothing wrong with migrants coming in here working in this country. So they're the backbone of a lot of the jobs we're doing here, but they come in through the proper channels. Like, look at the migrants. So they're helping us here in relation to, say, minding some of the elderly people at home and everything like that. Like, fantastic services they're giving. You know, our own people wouldn't be able to do it as good because, you know, some of them, I don't think they want to do that kind of work. But like, we have some migrants coming here doing fantastic work in that. Like, we have migrants working here legally in our what you call restaurants and hotels. And well, we won't have many restaurants and hotels left. The way things are going anyway now. But you know, we have them working in lots of different sectors who came in here legally, who didn't come here, you know, expecting to have accommodation put under them, to have, you know, to be getting welfare payments and to have their food paid for. You know, these are genuine, hardworking migrants who come in, who are more than welcome here. But I mean, what we have done here is we've opened the doors, you know, but I'll just say it, Jerry, no more than not blaming the Guards for going into my own house. Like, how could you blame the migrants that are flooding in here either? Because I mean, it's such a good package on offer for them here. Should they be fools not to?
No, but you see, I think that's where I think that's where, you know, protest groups and people need to get smarter, because from my point of view, the government wants you to make it personal. So they want to pit me against, you know, somebody that's brown, black, white, whatever their color or race is. But it's actually the combination of immigration laws in this country, all of them, not just on the refugee stuff, but like a lot of the work visa stuff, because you raise a point. But the counterpoint I'd raise is we are part of the European Union, a community that has 500 million people. If we need to source labor for whatever sector, we have people that are able to come freely in that 500 million population. So, but our government, it seems to me, they're actually the racist ones in this sense, is they're targeting a lot of non-EU migrants, because they'll know they come from very poor backgrounds, and they'll possibly put up with poor work conditions and poor levels of accommodation as well. The ones now that aren't, you know, asylum seekers. So what I would say is that that's where I think we have a massive problem, is because, you know, it's grand saying, you know, there's 27 EU countries that can come and go as they want and work as they want, yet the government never seem to be targeting people from those countries to come here, but people from outside of those countries to come here. So
you're right. Didn't we see Roderick O'Gorman that time putting out the adverts online, you know, in 7 different languages? And as you said, he wasn't inviting them from the European countries. It's true for you. So, but you know what, Jerry? You don't really annoys me more than anything in it. Like I'm 10 years as a councillor now, you could say, right? So you can imagine that there's been several occasions where migrants would have come to me in relation to, you know, having difficulty with their visas or whatever, like, right? And like, all I can say to you is, like, tried on several occasions to help some of these migrants out, to get them to stay here. These are hard-working people, like, coming into this country, and that's all they want to do is continue working. They were renting property here. You know what I mean? There was no burden on the state whatsoever. And like, you go to the Department of Defence here, and next thing, some of them are turned down. They're not allowed to stay here. Like, it's that now I find upsetting, I have to say. I find it very upsetting. You know, because like if you got genuine people like that said, more than welcome.
Well, yeah, like you know, the thing, I suppose the thing, you know, and maybe a final point in question on this is that because we're a small country, 5 million people, whatever it is, you can like it's not a question of, you know, example, Polish, Lithuanian, Latvian has been here 20-25 years, a good mix. But at a percentage of the town that is able to absorb and kind of bring them into being, you know, Irishness, we're in danger of a situation.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're in danger of a situation where the native population, over a very short period of time, is in a minority in its own country. Like, and I don't think I'm being sensationalist to say that, especially in terms of what Leo Varadkar's saying there. It's obviously a plan to continue and accelerate over the next 10 years.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, look, Ireland will become, if we keep going the way we're going at the moment anyway, Ireland is going to become completely unrecognizable from what we would have known it had grown up anyway. There's no question about that. Because look, again, Gerald, I think we discussed this before ourselves. It's as I said, integration is the key here, and that's not happening. You know, you have vast numbers of people coming into the country now, and they're being corralled into certain areas. And when you do that, like, they're not going to integrate. They're going to just keep their own beliefs and their own ways of life, and that's the way it's going to be like. And that's tried and tested all over the world. It's proven that that's the way it works. And I don't know, like Jerry, we'll end up in a situation here, as I said to you, unfortunately, probably like what has happened in Sweden and other countries around Europe, like, and we might even be too late at this stage.
Well, hopefully not. I suppose a final question, Noel. What's been the support locally since, you know, this all happened to you with the you know, I think you said it was the 6th of January, whatever, when your house was raided, basically. What's been the local reaction to you locally?
I can tell you, Jerry, like, almost, as I said again, high 90%, like, right? Absolute and utter disgust from the people around here as to how I was treated. Absolute disgust and shock in relation to it. And there's no point saying anything else, like, because that is the way it is out here. And like, as I said to you, look, I know a lot of guards. I've spoke even again this evening. I was speaking to retired Gardaí, and like, none of them can understand how this happened. Also, it's a unique situation. This, like, I can tell you that much. But look, at the end of the day, we know where it's coming from. You know.
Yeah, I think desperation. To be honest, it's desperation. It's like a couple of Hail Mary passes at the end of a football game or whatever you might say. And I think they definitely overstepped them. Like, I think they've overstepped the mark there, and there are going to be consequences for it, because your story did resonate. Your story did resonate with a lot of people outside of Galway, and I can tell you that much.
I know. Joe was interested, Jerry, as well, like, you know, because, like, I spoke to Micheál Martin about this before. Micheál said, kind of seemed to think that, you know, that he was actually very popular on the ground in Cork as well, like. But I will tell you one thing, an interesting stat, like, was that out of all of the phone calls I was getting and messages and everything, right, I can tell you the most popular place, obviously, I was getting them from was Galway. And I would say the next most popular place was Cork. So that's where the most of them are coming.
Well, yeah, well, like, Cork is Cork is an interesting county, but I do think that where you do see the biggest resistance to what's going on is on kind of Cork, Kerry, up the western seaboard all the way up to Donegal.
Yeah,
we still have there's still a more, I don't know what you know But like any time I go into Dublin City now, I feel like I'm not in Ireland in a
I know what
sense.
you're saying.
But we still retain that on the on the western seaboard anyway, and southern seaboard maybe. Is there anything, I suppose, Noel, thanks a million for your time, and I suppose, is there anything else you had or anything I didn't ask you there that you wanted to go through?
Not that I can think of right now at the moment anyway, no. So.
Oh, well, hopefully you don't get any nasty. Well, you probably will get a nasty call after this, but you've dealt with a lot worse since that, anyway, unfortunately. Exactly. But, look at Noel. Thanks a million.
Well, look, the main thing I said to you, look, hopefully people can just keep their spirits up in relation to this, and I said trying to get the message back to this government. Let them hopefully open their eyes. Like, I know it's not easy for people, but you'd be amazed the support that's there for you. Like, as I said, there's way more people thinking the same way that we're thinking than what we're being told. And I can guarantee that.
Yeah, well, that's it. And hopefully I'll be able to get a few more on here now as we go into the local elections. Look, Noel, thanks a million, and best of luck in the future. And we'll hopefully talk to you again in a few months' time. And we'll see what country we're living in. Thanks.
Bye. Bye.